Hello everyone, again we're wrapping up this week with percent applications part 2. Again, you see no answer choices. That was done on purpose by me. That way you can concentrate on working the steps out to get into your answer. On number 1 and 2, you're answering a yes or a no, and you're using that given table. So let's get started with number 1, which says Mary earned 60% of her money by doing dishes and yard work. Well, the first thing we have to do is label our key information, which is dishes and yard work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna label what they represent. Dishes, it's given to you, it represents $16. So dishes, we're gonna write $16, and yard work represents $8. $8. So those two, 16 and 8, we need to combine. So 16 plus 8, and that it's $24. So those $24 represent 60% of her money. Well, we need to find the total. What is the total weekly amount that she makes? So we need to add those four amounts: 8 plus 6 plus 16 plus 10. When you add all four amounts, you're gonna get $40. So does 24 out of $40 make 60%? Well, that's what we need to figure out. 24 out of 40, I'm sorry, I wrote 60 there, so let me fix that. 24 out of 40, does that make 60%? Well, we don't know. But again, before you divide, make sure you simplify. And the bigger the number, the less steps. Remember, we can use 2, we can use 4, but 8 will be a better number. 8 goes into 24 3 times, and 8 will go into 40 5 times, which is 3/5. Now, those 3/5 represent 60%. Now, if you're a student of mine, you should know your 3/5 equivalent as a decimal. And without doing any more work, you should know if it equals 60% or not. For those who do not know, well, you're going to be forced to divide. Top number goes in, bottom number goes out. 5 can never go on a 3, so we need to add a decimal and a 0. 5 goes into 36 times, so that will give you exactly 30. So there's your answer as a decimal, 0.6. And now all you have to do is change that decimal to a percent. So we go twice to the right, once, twice. And that gap represents a 0. So that represents 60%. So those two things, dishes and yard work, they indeed do represent 60%. So your answer will be a yes for that. Number 2, walking the dog, doing dishes, and laundry makes up 85% of her income. Well, walking the dog, it's $10. So we label it as $10. Dishes represent $16. And doing the laundry represents $6. So again, we must combine all three things. So 10 plus 16 is 26. 26 plus 6 will equal $32. And that is $32 out of the 40. So let me put this as a fraction. Now, does 32 out of 40 represents 85% of our income? Well, we do the same thing. We have to simplify the fraction if possible. Again, 8 is a good number. 8 goes into 32 4 times, and 8 goes into 45 times. Again, if you're my student, 4/5, you should know without having to divide if that equals 85% or not. If you don't know, well, you're going to be forced to divide again. So top number in, bottom number out. 5 cannot go into 4. So we add a decimal and a 0. And 5 goes into 48 times, which equals the 40. So again, there's your decimal, 8/10 or 0.8. You move your decimal twice to the right to make that a percent. That gap again represents a 0. So 4/5 represents 80%. Is that what they're asking you, number 2? And you can see that no, they're saying that's 85. So This one, it should be a no. And last but not least, James is taking a test. He has completed 16 questions, which is 25% of the test. How many questions are on the test? Well, on this one, we can easily go back to the proportion part over whole percent over 100. Again, the 100, it's always going to be there. So now we look for a number on top of the 100 that represents a percent. So James is taking a test. He has completed 16 questions, which is 25%. So there it is. 25 is the number with the percent sign. The next one is the part and the whole thing. Well, James is taking a test. He has completed 16 questions, which is only 25% of the test. So 16 questions is just part of the test. And then the question says, how many questions are there on the test? Well, we don't know. That's the whole thing. Now, to do the scale factor on this one is going to be kind of difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply. So we're going to do 25 times x, which is 25x. And then we do 16 times 100. Now, when you multiply here, save the zeros. 16 times 1 equals 16. And then bring back the 2 zeros, which is going to give you 1600. And then our last step is just to divide by 25. So we need to divide 1600 by 25. So 25 cannot go into 1 or 16. Now when you're dividing by 25, think of it as quarters. And with 160 is like $1.60. So how many quarters are there in $1.60? Well, you see that it's 6 and that $1.50. So you have 10 cents left over. Bring down a 0 and that makes 100 or $1 if you think money-wise. Now it's how many quarters are there in $1? Well, all of you should know that there are 4 quarters and $1. So that means that your answer is 64. So how many questions are there on the test? The answer should be 64. And that is it. Thank you.